This data visualization highlights a staggering reality. The United States carries a national debt exceeding $33 trillion, paired with the world's largest trade deficit. Under any standard economic model, a country this deeply in the red should be facing a total collapse. Yet the US dollar remains the primary currency for global trade. It creates a fundamental question of accounting. How does a nation with these specific financial imbalances maintain such a high degree of control over the global economy? This dominance is sustained by an engineered artificial architecture, a set of geopolitical gears designed to pull the global economy into a very specific orbit. The foundation of this system was laid in 1944. With Europe devastated, the U.S. accumulated roughly 70. At the Bretton Woods Conference, the U.S. convinced its allies to stop trading in physical gold and start trading in dollars, effectively turning the U.S. into the world's central bank. To ensure trust, the U.S. established a strict conversion rule. Exactly $35 was guaranteed to be exchangeable for 1 ounce of physical gold. Allied nations conducted their trade in paper notes, trusting that the gold sat safely in American vaults. By the 1960s, the immense decade-long costs of the Vietnam War began to drain the American treasury and destabilize the dollar. To fund the conflict, the U.S. quietly printed vastly more paper currency than it had gold to back up, violating its own rules and setting a trap for the nations holding those dollars. The math eventually became impossible to hide. U.S. gold reserves plummeted from 20,000 metric tons down to just 8,000. European nations and Japan realized the U.S. could no longer honor its promises. They panicked and began aggressively demanding their physical gold back. To stop the bleeding, President Richard Nixon made a shocking 1971 television announcement. He was unilaterally severing the dollar's connection to gold. Overnight, the U.S. dollar became a fiat currency, a piece of paper backed by nothing but a government decree. This move risked an immediate collapse. To save the dollar, the U.S. had to find a new global commodity that every country on Earth was forced to buy. That commodity was crude oil, the lifeblood of the modern industrial world. Through a series of secretive 1974 agreements, the U.S. formed a pact with Saudi Arabia and the rest of the OPEC nations. The deal was simple. OPEC would only sell oil in U.S. dollars, and their profits had to be reinvested back into the American economy. Because every nation requires oil to function, every nation was now forced to stockpile U.S. dollars, creating an artificial permanent demand for American paper. By replacing gold with energy, the U.S. ensured that the world's dependency on oil would permanently guarantee the value of its currency. This system is maintained by institutions like the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. These organizations act as lenders of last resort, providing infrastructure and crisis loans to developing nations. Because loans are issued only in dollars, debtor nations must restructure their economies to focus on exports, just to earn the dollars needed for interest. The U.S. uses its disproportionate voting power to dictate domestic policies and isolate nations trading outside the dollar ecosystem. This forces developing countries to subsidize the American economy, trading their real natural resources just to obtain the paper currency needed to stay afloat. The cycle begins at the Federal Reserve, which creates fiat dollars out of thin air to fund U.S. government consumption and deficits. Global exporters earn these dollars by selling goods to America, then use them to buy U.S. Treasury bonds to protect their national reserves. This reveals the final machine. America prints money, the world trades goods to get it, and it flows back through oil sales, debt interest, and bond investments. This recycling system allows the U.S. to carry $33 trillion in debt without facing an economic reckoning. While paper money circles the globe, the flow of physical reality is one-sided. Tangible goods, technology, and labor all flow toward the United States. This architecture functions as a meticulously enforced extraction engine, ensuring the cost of American supremacy is